Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This is a channel that is for educational purposes, and we generally look at theories of everything, all encompassing theories that you might benefit from knowing something about, give you a little bit of a bigger picture of how things work. Um, I guess I would say that all of these different theories of everything, they all come down to the same common denominator, but they are basically using different languages, different ways of expressing the same thing. And in particular, we've looked at the ancient Egyptian tree of life, and now we're looking at the reciprocal system of theory. Today is the 229th video that we've done on the reciprocal system of theory, which was first proffered by Dewey B. Larson back in the 20th century, up until his death in 1990. And then there have been some other commentators who have tried to carry his work forward to different degrees of success, one of whom is Dr. Bruce Perret, who also just recently passed away in 2020, but he put out a lot of work, not only revising some of the mistakes that he felt that Larson made, but also setting out on his own course and moving the reciprocal system into other fields. In particular, in this case, well, he calls it geochronology, but just geology, planetary geology in general, and also anthropology. We are reading from one of Perret's works that he wrote under the pen name of Daniel Phoenix III. And he contends that Daniel was one of the computer programmers that worked at the Montauk Project back in the early 80s, a government black ops project, and that I guess is the subject of a number of conspiracy theories, so-called. And but it was definitely written by Bruce, and I don't know if he had a prior lifetime doing that or not, or if he's just making it up. But anyway, this is part one of his anthropology series that's called Geochronology. That's the title of part one. And we are, I think, on our fifth episode of going through that paper. So if you want to start at the beginning, you probably want to go back about 4 episodes. Now, just to give you a quick update on the reciprocal system before we get started, the basic idea behind the reciprocal system is that we live in a universe of motion. The universe is not made out of matter. It's not made out of energy, but it is made out of motion. Motion is the relationship between space and time. Space and time are not so much the containers of the universe, but they are rather the contents of the universe. Motion. Motion is the relationship between space and time. Space and time, motion is basically a fraction with time or space as the numerator and space or time as the denominator. But it is a little bit more difficult than that because both space and time can come in multi-dimensions. This is what Larson calls coordinate space, XYZ coordinates, 3 dimensions of space, and also coordinate time, 3 or more dimensions of time. And then also space and time have their aspects of progressing. This is what Larson calls a scalar motion, a motion that has a magnitude but has no direction. And Larson calls this clock time. The clock is always getting later and later and later, but in no particular direction. And clock space. The space is always getting farther and farther and farther apart. And you can envision this using a balloon, putting a bunch of dots on it with a magic marker, and then blowing up the balloon. All the dots are moving away from each other. The further away they are, the faster they're moving away from each other. If you suck in the balloon, they start moving toward each other. Not in a particular direction, however. It's just a progression, the flow of space, or the progression of space. And then also space and time come in only discrete units. There is no minimum unit of space or time, or there is a minimum unit of space or time, 1 unit. Less than 1 unit does not exist. And so 1 unit of space in 1 unit of time is the speed of light. So the speed of light is the midpoint of the universe. Half of the universe is actually moving faster than the speed of light. That is greater than 1. The speed of light is 1, what Larson calls unit speed. But half the universe is moving faster than that. This is the half of the universe Larson calls the cosmic sector, and it's the half of the universe that the legacy scientists know very little about. And then the half of the universe that we're familiar with, the material sector, is all moving slower than the speed of light, which prompted Einstein to say that nothing moves faster than the speed of light. That's because Einstein didn't know anything about the cosmic sector. Now, what gives us a great advantage and what gives the reciprocal system great power is that everything that's going on in the material sector, its exact analog is occurring in the cosmic sector, except that the roles of space and time are reversed because of the reciprocal postulate between space and time. So, in the material sector, we have coordinate space, 3 dimensions or more of space, and clock time. The clock is progressing or always moving forward. But in the cosmic sector, we have relationships of coordinate time, 3 or more dimensions of time, and clock space. Space is always progressing. Things are always getting farther and farther and farther apart. So when we start with that, it gives us a great entryway into understanding how the cosmic sector works and what it's all about. Larson wrote about this a lot in his final book that was called Beyond Space and Time. And for him, the cosmic sector was all about consciousness and intelligence. So he also wrote about it briefly, or somewhat, in his last book, or in his book Nothing But Motion, the book that we looked at last, that was mainly on atomic physics and so on. But he had chapters in there on the cosmic atoms, cosmic atom building, cosmic ray decay. These are all aspects of the cosmic sector also. But in those cases, those are aspects of the cosmic sector coming into the material sector and eventually, as a result, decaying. It becomes, if something from the material sector goes into the cosmic sector, it begins to decay radioactively, and vice versa, because it's unstable in that environment. A cosmic atom is a combination of motions, just like a material atom, but the motions are reversed in terms of whether the motions are in time or in space. And so a material atom, it becomes unstable once it moves into the cosmic sector. And the bridge of those sectors between the sectors, how to cross over from one to the other, how to cross the speed of light barrier, is through massive explosions, either stellar explosions or galactic explosions. And that is how a particle moves across that boundary of the speed of light into the other sector. Okay, now we're going to start this Bruce Perret, Daniel Phoenix 3 paper here. We're in a section that's called the early structure of the solar system. And he just got done talking about really how all solar systems have 4 inner planets, an asteroid belt, and 4 outer planets. And that's all as a result of applying the tenets of the reciprocal system. This is an important consequence in that all solar systems are going to look just like ours does. The sizes of planets may be different, and there may or may not be planets in specific orbits, but overall, you'll have none to 4 hard inner planets, an asteroid belt, and none to 4 gaseous outer planets. Like our solar system, anything beyond that, which includes Pluto and Charon, Eris, etc., are in unstable orbits, primarily being determined by solar gravity and not by their inner cores. Most people are familiar with Zecharia Sitchin's series, The Earth Chronicles, and the Sumerian cylinder seal, VA243, that he claims to be a depiction of our solar system with an extraplanet, Nibiru. However, we know that most solar systems look exactly like our own. So what if the solar system depicted on this seal is not ours, but another solar system? Perhaps the solar system the Anunnaki originally came from. December 21st, 2012 has come and gone, and no Nibiru in our skies. Consider the possibilities. Well, just to add a little something, I know Zecharia Sitchin never claimed that Nibiru was going to be coinciding with the December 21st, 2012 date. In fact, I believe Sitchin would have said that the next crossing of Nibiru with our, part of the solar system isn't going to be happening until approximately 3400 AD, because it comes every 3600 years, and I believe the last time it came was about 200 BC. That's according to Sitchin. Okay, back to Perret, Daniel. Our early sun is a reconstituted 3rd generation red giant, a large, relatively cool star with low gravity. The planets, being the shattered remains of its former white dwarf companion, are still strongly displaced in time, with the inner cores providing a significant anti-gravity propulsion system to hold the planets into stable orbits fairly far out, but with each planet moving at a substantially faster orbital velocity than we now observe. Okay, I'm just looking at his footnotes in case there's something crucial in one of his footnotes. Okay, moving on. The beginnings of a 3rd generation solar system will initially be a large ring of dust and debris around a dull red giant sun, with the fragments of the white dwarf maintaining an orbital position in that debris field. Over time, gravity will do its job, and the bulk of the debris field will be accumulated by the newly forming sun and planetary cores, making the sun smaller, brighter, and hotter, moving it towards the main sequence. The planetary cores cool and expand, with a slowly increasing layer of rock accumulating over them. The aggregated crust tends to be small, as the anti-gravity motion of the early core will tend to push away the larger fragments that would otherwise substantially add to the mass. Now, just remember that when Larson is referring to the progression, just like the progression of space or the progression of time, space is always getting farther and farther and farther apart. That is an anti-gravity motion. Okay, when you blow up the balloon like that, I was talking about before, that's anti-gravity motion. When you suck in the balloon, that is gravitational motion. So the white dwarfs, pulsars, and so on have a certain amount of anti-gravity motion inside of them. If a spacefaring species were to visit the Earth in those early days, after most of the post-supernova debris had been cleared away, they would find 8 planets in fairly close orbits, close enough that the rings of Saturn could be observed with the naked eye on near-orbital approach, and Neptune would be visible in the night sky, much as Jupiter is now. One of the beautiful parts of Dewey Larson's reciprocal system of theory is that everything works the same way. There is one set of rules that define structure from the smallest electron to the largest supergalaxy. So anything you learn in one specific field of study is applicable to all others. And it is simply based on time and space, the yin-yang of the universe. Quite literally, if you look at the Tajitu of Taoism, Chinese Taoism, you have the circle with the wave-like boundary and then a dot on either side. That is really the structure. Both halves are the material sector and the cosmic sector. The wave-like line in between is the speed of light. And the 2 dots are the time region and the space region, which are both within a unit, within a unit of time and within a unit of space. Everything that's within a unit of space, Larson refers to as the time region. And everything that's within a unit of time, Larson refers to as the space region. Because of this discrete unit postulate, if you don't have a full unit of space, then you don't have any space at all. So if you don't have any space at all, you only have time. It has to be one or the other. And so that applies in both cases. And with the Tajitu, they are those circles that are within each one of the other sides. So very literally, time and space are the yin-yang of the universe. If we apply this basic yin-yang knowledge to the newly forming 3rd generation solar system, we find that there are yin planets and yang planets distributed around a neutral boundary. Looking at our solar system, the structure becomes obvious. This neutral boundary is the asteroid belt, with the small condensed yin planets being the inner planets and the large expansive yang planets being the outer gas giants. All the inner planets will have similar properties. All the outer planets will have similar properties, and the inner and outer will be conjugates of each other. There are a few other consequences of this structure. 1. The asteroid belt was never a planet. It was a white dwarf star. It exists in a region where forces are relatively balanced, like a stagnant pool. Rock accumulates there and forms asteroids. So over time, a planet-sized asteroid may form from gravitation, but that planet will not have a planetary core like the other worlds, and as such would never be able to sustain an ecosystem. And the footnote just says Ceres, Ceres, now occupying that location, has a rocky core and icy mantle, not an active planetary core. And I believe Ceres is basically just the largest asteroid in the asteroid belt. Okay, 2. The early planets had no moons. It is a reasonable conclusion, as during the post-supernova aggregation phase, Any moons close enough to a planet would be sucked in and add to the planet's mass. The moons are a later stage of solar system formation, a product of outer planet nova activity, or someone dropping them off. That will come in later. 3, all planets have a scalar magnetic field. Magnetism is a consequence of intermediate speed motion in the reciprocal system. Intermediate speed means greater than the speed of light, but less than 2 times the speed of light. And all planetary cores have intermediate speed motion. However, without something to give the magnetic field an orientation, the field is random and barely detectable by instrumentality. Once oriented, it normally takes the shape of the classic toroid. 4, the positioning of the planets is arranged about the neutral unit speed boundary, the asteroid belt, not the sun. The sun controls where this neutral ring sits in relation to itself. The planets adjust relative to the neutral ring. Gravity is still the controlling factor, but there are 2 kinds of gravity: spatial and temporal gravity, gravity in time, and anti-gravity in space. There are a large number of factors that go into the positioning of the planets, not just gravity. The interaction of the various speed ranges of the planetary core, the electric, magnetic, and gravitational effects of the sun, and the effects the planets have on each other, since they share a common white dwarf core that is still localized in time and distributed across space as planets. All right. Let's see. It looks like we are just out of time. So that's the end of that section. The next section will be called Sister Worlds, the Inner Planets. So we'll be looking at the yin planets, according to Daniel, next episode. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you back tomorrow. Have a great day.